Hello everyone and welcome to NParks Spotlight. My name is Leslie and I'm from the National Biodiversity Centre at the National Parks Board. We've got a great session for you today, so thank you for joining us. And for those that have attended our sessions before, welcome back. This series aims to enthuse our online audience about Singapore's biodiversity. Every Saturday morning from 10:30 to 11:30, you can join us on Zoom or stream the sessions live on YouTube. Earlier this month, we looked at our habitats on land and out in the sea. Then we zoomed into some of our animal inhabitants, such as birds, and today we'll be learning about spiders. With tens of thousands of species worldwide, they really are a diverse group. And in Singapore alone, we have spiders that not only build webs, but also show a whole range of hunting strategies. Lots of interesting facts to cover, so moving on, here is our program. I'll soon bring in our speaker for today, Liew Qi, who is a senior manager at the National Biodiversity Centre. If at any time during her presentation you have a question, do send it to me, Leslie, as a private message using the Zoom chat. And we will try to address a few later on during the Q&A. So right now, let me present to you not just web builders. Let's hear from our senior manager of the Terrestrial branch at the National Biodiversity Centre, Liew Qi. Take it away, Liew Qi.
Okay, hold a sec while I share my screen. Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Liew Qi. I'm from National Biodiversity Centre. I think if you guys were here maybe a few weeks ago, I did a short cameo on fireflies. So today my talk will just be on spiders. I graduated from Cal in 2012 with a bachelor's in ecology. And while I did a lot of classes on different biology aspects and ecology aspects, I think one thing that I really enjoyed in university was the spider biology course by my professor, Rosie Gillespie. So I learned quite a bit about spider taxonomy, but I'm not very familiar with spider taxonomy in Singapore, but it's still an interest of mine. And through the course of my work, I've also met very enthusiastic people about who love spiders. Of course, famous ex-ambassador Joseph Koh, and also other amateurs such as Chris Ang, Nikki Bay, and quite a lot of people who have helped in my journey in learning about spiders in Singapore. So a lot of the pictures are from them, and a lot of the information I learned is also from them. So the next slide. So what are spiders? I had this fun exercise with my friends and my family. I asked them to draw me a spider, and I had very interesting results. So I think for the most part, all of them had 8 legs, so that was very heartening to see. Most of them had 2 body parts, which is what a spider would have. Some had 8 eyes, which is accurate for most spiders. Not all spiders have 8 eyes, but they have a maximum of 8 eyes. They have 0 to 8 eyes. A couple of them drew me fangs or palps, which is correct. And some had webs. So some spiders do have webs and some don't. So more or less accurate-ish from my friends. Oh, and one of my friends would like to highlight that she wrote Peter Parker here because the only thing she knows about spiders is really from Spider-Man. So what are spiders actually? So this slide has a lot of information, but not to worry. The really simple things that you need to take away is that spiders are related to insects, except insects have 6 legs, but they are similar in the sense that they have jointed limbs. If you see on the spider on the right, he has like 7 leg segments. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They're also very closely related to horseshoe crabs, more related to horseshoe crabs than insects because they have these appendages in front of their mouths. In the spider's case, they have fangs. And they are very close cousins of other arachnids such as scorpions, mites, ticks, and that's because they have 8 legs and 2 major body parts. And lastly, what makes a spider is that they have fangs with venom. Almost all have fangs with venom. So again, with my slides later on, you'll find that quite a lot of animals don't really follow the rules in terms of classification, and there's quite a lot of exceptions to the rule. And most importantly, the thing that most people are familiar with spiders is that they have spinnerets that extrude silk. So how many spiders are there in Singapore? A lot of people ask this question and the answer is always changing. as of today, the answer is sort of hidden in the slide here. If you stare at this image hard enough, maybe the answer might appear. So maybe just take a few seconds to kind of think about how many spiders you think there are in Singapore. And so the answer is more than 800 spiders. Okay, that was pretty lame, but this is at the moment how many spiders we have in Singapore, spider species, and there are actually a lot more to be discovered, simply because there is we're doing quite a lot of intensive surveys to try to find more of our local species. And also it does take time to describe spiders. And quite often, I think with plants as well and a lot of other animals, you'll find that taxonomists will often revise a genus, or like recently a spider genus that I know of was actually split to 4 different species, 4 different genus even, and even more species. So it gets a bit complicated. But as of right now, it's more than 800 species in Singapore. Maybe next year it'll be more than 1,000, I'm not sure. So we'll have a little interactive section right now. Basically, what is your favorite spider? I will be moving on to this app called Mentimeter. So give me a second here. Okay, so what you guys can do is, this is like a word cloud. If you've been to a previous presentations, I think some presenters use the same thing. You go to menti.com and you key in the code 190481, and you can just type in what's your favorite spider. Okay, we have our first answer. Radioactive spider. Spider-Man. Daddy long legs. Wow, okay, there's a lot of answers right now. Sea spider, crab spider, Peter Parker. Okay, great. We're having a lot more answers. And some of them are quite specific. Huntsman. Oh, Daddy long legs. I'll cover that later. St. Andrew's cross. Jumping spiders. We will give like another minute or so. Any. Black widow. Okay. We don't have that in Singapore, so that's a good thing, I suppose. Oh, okay. Not a fan of spiders. That's okay. I'm not a fan of snakes, but you know, we gotta live with what we have. Fighting spider. What's a katipo? Spitting spiders. Oh wow. Okay, interesting. We'll talk about that as well. Okay, so thanks for sharing. I'll actually be asking this question again later on. So hopefully maybe we'll see more spiders on there, or maybe less, we're not sure. Okay, so I'll be going back to my presentation. Okay, just for the record, my favorite Spider-Man character actor is Andrew Garfield, the one on the left. Yeah. So hold on, let me move this a bit away. So actually, with the template that I showed just now, where spiders generally, I mean, all of them have 8 legs, 2 body parts, and fangs and terrestrial. With this template design, actually, you can come up with quite a lot of different looking spiders with all shapes and sizes. So on the top left, we have sort of a classic shape of a spider, but actually look at it. It looks like lichen. It blends in with the tree trunk, and it's actually eating a cockroach right now because it's camouflaged so well that most of the prey can't see it. And then on the second photo on the left, we have the classic tarantula, your Miagramox. It's basically a big spider, your classic spider. But then on the right of it, it doesn't look like there's a spider there at all. I mean, I'm not sure if you can actually see the spider, but this part here, where I'm circling, is the actual spider. This is its head, the cephalothorax, the top part of the body. And this is actually its abdomen. So this is a tree stump spider. It basically looks like a tree stump, and it's really tiny. It's, if you can see my fingers, it's this small, or even smaller than that. So that's actually a spider. On the right, you actually have a cyclosa, and it looks like a lot of trash, but the spider is just over here in the middle. You can see its abdomen here, and this is its head, and the legs are actually sticking out. So what it does is it picks up a bit of trash, you know, like detritus and stuff, puts it in the middle of the web, and then it hides inside so no one can find it. And if we go in clockwise over here, you can see what it looks like. It looks like bird dung. Okay, so this is the bird dung spider, one of many different types. And it's actually it's interesting because the abdomen, which is this thing outlined here, it actually has a bit of liquid feel inside. If you actually look at it in real life, the liquid moves inside. So it actually looks really like bird dung, just with the template of the 2 body parts and 8 legs. In the middle here, we have ant mimic jumping spider. So what it does is it tries to pretend an ant and it attacks ants. And because it's 8 legs while ants have 6 legs, it just holds up the first 2 legs and pretends to be antennae. So they try to cheat and then they walk around and try to pretend to be an ant. And then on the far left, I've been told that most people only see the bee in this photo, which is over here. But actually over here on top of that is another spider, which has quite cleverly camouflaged amongst the flowers. And basically it's waiting in the flowers and it got its bee. So in case you can't see, the head is over here, the other one's over there, and these are the legs. And this is the poor bee that got eaten. So there's a lot of spider misconceptions that we get. A lot of people ask me the same few questions, which I'll answer today. So in case other people ask you, at least there's some basic stuff that you should know about spiders. Firstly is, will they bite me? The answer is no, probably not. Not unless you grab it and then try to harass a spider. So that is, I think, one thing a lot of people ask. Oh, I'm itchy here. I see 2 bite marks there. Chances are they're not a spider that bit you. Most spiders have fangs. I think the really small ones can't pierce your skin, but some of them can. And even if they do, the venom is not strong enough to actually cause any effects. I think at most, if a very large spider bites you, it may cause localized itching and a rash. But the good news about Singapore is that most of our spiders are not, the famous ones that you hear worldwide that are deadly or have toxins. So in general, the ones in Singapore are very safe. And I think most of the time they don't want to bite you. They don't even see humans as prey. They just, I think they see us as like large rocks or something in the landscape. Yeah. So will they build webs everywhere in the house? Not really. It depends on the spider that you have in your house. Quite a lot of spiders that people take photos of and send in, and they say, oh, this spider is being annoying, doing a lot of webs in my house. Actually, they're not even web builders, the photos, at least the spiders that people send in. Some do, which you'll find out later, but actually most spiders don't build webs. Most species are actually ground hunters. Will they jump into my mouth when I sleep? So, there's this urban legend where people are like, oh, every year two spiders will land inside your mouth. It's not true. I don't think it's true. And it is very unlikely simply because of the way spiders work. So spiders sort of feel by vibrations. Some can see better than others, but majority of them will feel their way through life through vibrations. So when you're sleeping, you're moving, you're breathing out, you're breathing heavy. If your mouth is open, it's wet, it's moist, it's gonna be rumbly because maybe you're snoring. So all these are no-nos for spiders. They will not like to go even near you when you're sleeping because of all these movement and vibrations. So the chances of them actually entering your mouth when you sleep is very little. And even if some people say, oh, but they fall in accidentally and stuff. But I think most spiders are quite clever, or they're quite good with using their silk. They will usually use their silk as drag lines or safety lines. So they will not even want to drop inside you. So they will try not to as well. And the chances of this happening is actually extremely low. And the last question is, do they suck juices from their prey like vampires? The answer is no. They do something a little similar to that. They actually vomit their digestive juices onto their prey and let the digestive juices do the work before actually imbibing the prey. So how spiders work for the most part is they actually eat or be eaten. Most of their survival strategies are just around this, to eat or to avoid being eaten actually. Yeah, so on the right here, there's this lovely photo of a Portia, a jumping spider that's eating another spider. Over here we have a series of great photos by Tan Chuan Yin. It was reported in, I think, Nature Society paper. Yeah, and basically it just shows you how dog eat dog or spider eat spider world it is out there. So here we have a Lynx Spider that is eating a gastricantha, a spiny orb weaver. And behind you see this small jumping spider that's checking everything out. And okay, I gotta get in the action. So he comes a little closer. even closer, and bam, it got the Lynx Spider. So what happened here was the Lynx Spider dropped its prey. The jumping spider got the Lynx Spider. And you can see here, oops, sorry. There's actually a line here where the drag line is. So if you look at it, the jumping spider is a lot smaller than the Lynx Spider, and it's going to be a lot more weight. So that's how strong their silk is. They can actually use it to hold themselves up and their prey, which is also why they're less likely to drop into your mouth by accident, because the silk is actually quite strong. And yep, munching on the Lynx Spider. Of course, they also reproduce, but this is a lecture for another day. Spider reproduction is actually a bit complicated. And fun fact is that actually most of the spiders that we identify, one of the defining characteristics of a lot of spiders are actually their genitals, which is their sexual organs. That will be a lecture for another day if you guys are ever interested. Over here, we have one of my favorite photos by Chris Ang. He's one of our best spider volunteers. This is a Hylas diade, which is a jumping spider. I don't know if you can guess which is the male or the female, but the female is actually the white fluffy one, the bigger one, which is how it usually works in the spider world. And the male is this metallic black one over here. They're quite large spiders, and they tend to be very friendly. They don't like to sit and then pose for photographers. Very convenient. Yeah. So now we'll jump to the spiders proper. We have quite a lot of, more than 800 species of spiders in Singapore. I won't be covering all the families today. We'll just be covering some of the larger families and what are probably the most common spiders that you'll see. And hopefully you'll be able to identify them just based on family in the future. So we'll go into the classic spiders first, which are web builders. We have on the right here, the St. Andrews cross spider. I think that's someone's favorite spider that they mentioned just now. So we have a few different types of web building spiders, the orb weavers all the way down to the cobweb spiders. So of course, your classic spider web, round, vertical looking, with an orb. So this is the aranate, the most common the orb weaving spider in Singapore. And of course, we have a lot of people who will send this in. This is possibly our largest common-ish orb weaver in Singapore, the Nephila. So everyone sends this in and goes, what's this big spider? And this is a very common spider. You can actually find it in our parks and gardens if you look carefully. I just saw one in Macritchie yesterday when I was doing my work. So this is known as the Golden Ogre Weaver as its common name. It's known as the Golden Ogre Weaver because sometimes if you look at it in the sun, the web actually shines yellow gold. It's quite nice. And interestingly enough, the males are a lot smaller than the females. So just now you saw the photo of the two spiders on the leaf. While the female is a bit larger, it's not like that much larger as compared to this spider here, where if you look at the picture on the right, the males are a lot smaller than the female. And as in most spiders, the arachnids, the orb weavers actually come in many shapes and sizes. So if you take a look at these spiders over here, all four of them are actually orb weavers, but they don't look like each other, and they don't look like the spider in the previous slide. So they actually look like some common things that we see. If you see the top left spider, my boss immediately told me Mao Shan Wang, looks like Mao Shan Wang. So this is arachnura. It's actually known as a scorpion spider because it does look a bit like a scorpion when it actually stretches out a bit more. This is supposed to be the tail of the scorpion. But okay, it also looks like Mao Shan Wang. So the more I look at it, yeah, you can all call it the Mao Shan Wang spider. The one on the bottom left, again, it's another tree stump spider. So it looks like a twig. So again, it's just small. And what it usually does is it gaps itself on top of a twig so that it looks like the end of a twig. And on the top right, we have Wolverine. So we have a spider that is spiky and spiny, and it's another gastrocanther, similar to the one we saw just now. And for some reason, it looks like Wolverine. And the bottom right is one of my favorites. I'm not sure if you recognize this snack that's very common and that a lot of people eat. It looks like Mr. Pringles. So if you look at the abdomen, these are the eyes, and this is his mustache. But yeah, so this is Ranius nidificus, also a very common spider. As with all the spiders that I mentioned, quite a lot of them have exceptions. So even though the family is called aranate and the general characteristic is that it makes vertical orb webs, not all members of the family will make orb webs. So you have here the Setophora, which is a tent web spider. And this is obviously not a vertical orb web, but it's still in the same family because of other characteristics that it has. And it's quite a messy construction, but you can see here that it has egg sacs in the middle, the spiders over here, and there's like a dome to protect it. And some of these spiders are actually social, so we're not sure why this happens, but some spiders actually live together and they build webs, like a tent city around each other. Yeah, and this particular genus does this. And again, a different orb weaver that doesn't do an orb web. So this is the Bola Spider. It has no web at all, actually. It only has a single line of drop, and at the bottom there's the scent of the female moth pheromone. And what it does is it's just vicious. So it holds out its line, and at the end there's the bait, which is the scent of a female moth pheromone, and it maybe just sings a bit. And then at night, the male moth will get conned by this, and it'll fly straight into the bolas, which is extremely sticky, and that's how the spider catches its meal. I think the spider is extremely tiny, and the bolas is really, really small, but it can actually hold the weight of the entire moth when it catches it. And we move on to another common spider. The name is kind of hard to pronounce, Tetranatidae. Basically the long-jawed spiders, and they are quite they like to hang out near water, so their webs are usually horizontal to inclined orb webs, and open hub just means the center is empty. And they are usually found near ponds or even quarries and waterfalls and all that. In the botanic gardens, if you actually see the waterfall where people take a lot of photos for their wedding, a lot of these long-jawed spiders are there. So and they're called long-jawed spiders because in the photo on the right, you'll actually see that they have very long chelicerae, or the mouth parts. And then with the uloborids, which are known as criblid orb weavers, and criblid just means that the spider has an additional organ which makes the silk strands very fine but with a woolly texture, so it's like a comb. Again, some of these also live in communal webs like the Setophora and spiders. And some of them have very interesting web shapes like the Mexican hat. And I think perhaps maybe the most relieving thing about this family is that they have no venom. They actually just get their prey by wrapping up in silk and just vomiting their digestive juices over them. So it's an interesting spider. And again, they don't always do criblid orb webs. There are always exceptions for every family. And this family here, exception here is the Miagramox. It's a very common spider in Singapore, but a lot of people don't see it because look at it. It just looks like a tweed. That it looks like a line that's hanging on another silk line. And what it does is it actually has just one line of silk that it holds up that's really sticky. And then when it sees prey, it just lets go of the line and it pulls it back up to actually capture the prey. That's it. Very simple construction, but also very effective. And maybe I'll just take a moment here to show you that, yes, this whole brown thing is the spider here. The abdomen's over there. These are its back legs. And this is the silk that's coming out of the spinnerets. The head is here. These are the palps. And these are the front legs, which are always pretty long, often longer than the body that's holding on to the silk line. And again, they're this small, so if you have to look really carefully to find them, but they're extremely common in Singapore. Another one of my favorites, the Dinopede, net casting spiders, sometimes also known as the ogre-faced spiders, and they one up the Miagramox, which is basically they hold a silk net instead of a silk strand, and they just throw the net down when they actually see prey below it. So yeah, so now next slide, you can actually see the GIF in the middle. It's an ogre spider that's just throwing the net down on an unfortunate prey. And they're also known as ogre-faced spiders because of their eyes. If you look at the picture on the left, they have extremely good night vision. And you can look, the eyes are huge. And they don't really look like Shrek or an ogre, but they're known as ogre-faced spiders. And actually what they do is when they're done, they hunt at night. And in the daytime, they actually keep their net under the leaves during the daytime to use again at night. And this net is extremely sticky, more sticky than the orb webs. I think some of you mentioned that daddy long legs is your favorite spider. So this is the falsids, sometimes known as daddy long legs. They basically make the cobwebs that you see, the classic things that you see in an abandoned building, haunted house, that kind of chalet that hasn't been cleaned for a while. So these are the falsid webs. They are usually very huge tangles, and then the spiders in the middle. I don't have a video of this, but if you actually ever see a daddy long legs, right, and you try to disturb it a bit, like you poke a bit, right, they'll actually vibrate. They will start oscillating around and move around like this. It's quite interesting behavior. Some people are actually trying to figure out why they do this. Is it because they do this, then like, oh, the predator cannot catch them because they're moving too quickly? No one knows for sure. But it's quite fun to watch. I had a college roommate that was into spiders as well, and she did spider behavior. So her room was full of these spiders in plastic cups, those bubble tea cups. And then they will just, and then she'll make them shake, and then she'll measure how long they take to vibrate and all this. But yeah, it was quite fun to watch. Also because we didn't have a TV. And then you also have the other culprits for when people say, oh, a lot of spider built web in my house. These are the terranids or the cobweb spiders. They're extremely small. Every time we catch them in the field, we're like, oh no, it's another small spider. How are we going to identify this thing? And I think maybe they are well known because the famous black widow spider belongs to this family, which is also another small spider. But good news is that we don't have the black widow in Singapore, and also none of the local species are venomous to humans. In fact, quite a lot of them are probably too small to even bite you. And over here on the right, you can see a very common theridid, the Parasitoidia. Small thing, always in a bit of a leaf, and then with some like cobweb messy construction amongst the leaves. Again, exceptions. Not all of them look like the small little round little spiders that you see, which are characteristic of the family. On the left, you actually have a spider with a triangular butt. It's called the Janula, and the species name is triangularis because the abdomen, it looks like a triangle. And these are specialized termite hunters. So they actually go around and then they collect termites, like you see this guy's bounty here. And yeah, not very sure why, but yeah, these are Janula and they collect termites, and they are triangular butts. In the middle, we have the Rhomphea, which doesn't look like much. In fact, all the time when we find in the field, we keep thinking this is probably a cast-off mold of a spider, but it's not. The spider is actually here. I'm not even sure where to tell you where the head and the abdomen is, but they are there. And then there are the 8 legs, which are just like folded around the body. So it just looks like a bit of trash on their web. And on the right, we have the Agile Roadies. So not all spiders spin webs to catch their prey. Not all spiders hunt their prey. Some spiders are quite lazy. And like these Agile Roadies here, it's a kleptoparasite. So what it does is that it hangs out on webs of larger spiders, such as the Nephila, which is the biggest spider on the right. And then when the Nephila's got its prey, then these spiders just leech. They just come and just eat a bit and try not to get caught. And they scatter away. And they usually live on the web of their hosts. So this is also a cobweb spider in terms of family, but it doesn't do anything. So now we move on to the hunters, which are pretty much the larger number in terms of diversity of all the spiders. We have the tarantulas all the way down to my favorite, the jumping spiders. On the right here is a photo I took at Sembawang, like some random roadside in Sembawang of a endemic jumping spider eating some prey, which I can't tell what it is. Yeah. So we move on to the most, another famous spider which everyone knows. Every time I ask them what spider you know, and then everyone tells you tarantula. So we do have tarantulas in Singapore. We don't have very many species, but also because they're actually quite hard to find. So maybe we have a lot more, but we just never found them. The ones in Singapore are not very big, so don't be too worried. They are generally about this size or a lot smaller. They are nocturnal, and they usually are ambush hunters. So basically they wait in their burrows to catch prey. Although sometimes they do wander around to search for mates, which is generally when we get the most record of people taking photos. Hey, how come this spider walking around? And then they send it to us. Most live the ground, some are arboreal, and again, most are less than 5 centimeters. And they actually differ from most of the other hunters and web weavers that we will talk about today in terms of their fang arrangement. So most spiders, their fangs will go horizontally, but for the tarantulas and the trapdoor spiders, theirs go vertically. So that's actually a very big difference in terms of morphology, which is basically how they look like between these spiders and the others. And then we move on to, I can't pronounce it, Barrichellidae, the brush-footed trapdoor spiders. They are also not that big in Singapore, also maybe a few centimeters, and they are mostly different from tarantulas. They have the same fangs that point downward, but because they have this brush foot, if you look at their legs here, they have like sort of like brush pads on their legs, and what they do is they make trapdoors that are very difficult to spot, which is why these spiders are very difficult to see. So if you see this photo here by Chris, there's a trapdoor, but if the spider didn't open, you wouldn't have seen it at all. And they actually just hang out in the grass, like those like cow grass that's very common on turf. And a lot of times they are just there, but no one knows that they're there. And you can see here, they use their little claws, their spider claws, to hold on to the door, so that when something steps over it, they will just open the door, grab something, and go back in. And then kind of reminds me of, I don't know if anyone watches Game of Thrones here. So yeah, they hold the door like this character. So here's how concealed a trapdoor spider can be. Yeah, it's someone's pet lah, so that's why they know where the trapdoor is. And this is an unfortunate cricket that didn't know what was coming to get it. So this is how well concealed the trapdoors are and how good they are at hunting. Okay, show it again. Yeah. So we move on to wolf spiders, the Lycosids. They are mostly ground-dwelling hunters. I'm not sure why the common name is wolf spiders, because they actually do not hunt in packs. They're solitary hunters. They have pretty good eyesight. One interesting behavior, which we always see, but none of us actually bother to take a video, which I probably should now that I've done this presentation, and I sort of go like, oh no, there are all these things I want to show people, but I don't have like photographic evidence or like video evidence of this, is that males actually do push-ups when they see female. They drop 20, you know. Supposedly to identify themselves as males. We're really not sure, or maybe to show off, you know, no one really knows. I think one thing famous about these particular family of spiders is that they provide maternal care. So the mothers are often seen carrying egg sacs on the spinnerets. So on the bottom left, you have that white lump, that's an egg sac. And when the spiderlings hatch, they actually climb onto the mother's back. Stuff of nightmares for people who are arachnophobes. But again, these spiders are really, really small. So you have to be very close to actually see the little spiderlings on the mother's back. Again, there are exceptions. I said these are hunters. They don't generally build webs, but one particular member of this family does, and it's actually a very common spider. So this is the Hypasa. This is my photo. Basically, it likes to hang out all these like sheet webs that you see on the grass early in the morning that catch the morning dew. Yeah, all of them are from this spider, which is also known as the lawn wolf spider. And then we go on to the Huntsman Spiders. Again, another common one that a lot of people report because they're actually quite large. Sometimes they're larger than the tarantulas, also because their legs are kind of big. And they are generally found at night, as with most spiders, nocturnal. Their legs spread outwards like crabs. And in the most part, most of them are on the ground, but some of them actually prefer lower vegetation. So, and they like to eat cockroaches. So this is a reason why to like this spider, even though it's actually a bit large and sometimes scary, is that in most pictures I take of them, they are eating a cockroach, which is a great thing because I don't like cockroaches. So the one on the left is eating a forest cockroach. This is the Heteropoda David Bowie. It is named David Bowie because I suppose the spider taxonomist that named it like David Bowie, and also because it's very hairy. It has a lot of CT, which is the spider hairs, and then it kind of reminds the guy of David Bowie and his crazy hairstyle. And sometimes the spider is actually orange in color and yellow. They do have a bit of variation in color. And then on the right is a huntsman's female in Pulau Ubin, which I took. It's carrying its egg sac at the bottom, using its fangs to carry the egg sac. So not all of these huntsman spiders hunt on the ground. Some are actually specialists in trees, which is arboreal. You have two spiders here. Okay, I think the one on the right is not eating a cockroach, but okay, the one on the left is. And so these are different huntsmen. The one on the left is Heteropoda boii, and the one on the right is Pandicites. So they basically just blend on the tree trunks, and then they just eat whatever that comes their way. And speaking of tree trunks, I think in NParks we do a lot of tree inspections on trees. We actually, do like some of the tree doctors, we check tree health. Aside from seeing the huntsman spiders, which are quite rare in the day, but they might be hiding. We actually see the Hypasa, or the two-tailed spiders. These are also very common on tree trunks if you look quite carefully, because they are very small compared to the huntsman, and they tend to blend in very well with the tree trunk. So they have two tails. I won't really say tails, but their spinnerets are just very long, which is why they're called two-tailed spiders. And what they actually do is when they hunt is they jump on the prey, and then they run really quickly around the prey, and then sort of like tie them up with the silk as they run around the prey. So also another interesting behavior, which I wish I recorded. But yeah, you have my word for it now. I think someone mentioned spitting spiders as their favorite spider. And this is quite a cool spider because they actually, they spit. So they have a larger cephalothorax, or the head body part, as compared to most spiders, because they have this extra component called, which is to contain the glue. And what they do is they actually mix their glue and venom, and then they just spit. at their prey. And that's how they hunt. On the right, you have here an unfortunate prey that got spat on by a spitting spider. Also very common spiders in Singapore. If you check out leaves, they tend to be hiding inside rolled up leaves. And we have Pysaurids, or the fishing spiders. So again, maybe the stuff of nightmares for aquatic animals. We have spiders that can actually walk on water, and they do so with because of surface tension. So they actually like stop. If you actually look at a pond and sometimes you see a bigger, looks like a pond skater, but it's a lot bigger and has 8 legs, chances are this is a fishing spider. They are known to catch fish, tadpoles, and prawns. I think on the right here is some small crustacean. And of course, they can also catch other things. Most spiders are generalists. They eat whatever they catch. So this one also called a moth. Yeah, but quite cool animals. Very difficult to catch because they are they're always in the water. And I've heard from some of my friends that they've actually been known to dive into the water a bit also as well to catch their prey. And then we move on to crab spiders. Not more closely related to crabs than other spiders. They are just called crab spiders because they hold their legs out a bit more horizontally like crabs. And these are your sit and wait predators, and quite a lot of them are pollinator hunters. So what they do is they actually sit inside a flower and then they just grab whatever that comes to pollinate the flowers. And their venom is actually fast acting because a lot of things they catch are very fast flying, like bees and butterflies and all this. And interestingly enough, some species can actually change their color to match the flower that they're on. Yeah, so they were just, so over here on the left, it's a photo I took in Pulau Ubin. You can see, hopefully you can see the spider. The head is here, the abdomen is here, the legs are here, and it's actually got a hawk moth, which is a lot larger than it. So the venom had to be really fast for them to actually sort of immobilize the hawk moth. If not, the hawk moth is going to drag the spider down. And the spider fangs are very strong to be actually holding up this hawk moth. And then on the right, you have another crab spider that's got a bee. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I just wanted to mention that actually these spiders are very common. So if you see the plant on the bottom right, this is I think the name has changed. It used to be called Weedelia. So these are very common wildflower type plants and planted in our parks and gardens as well. So if you actually take a look at all these small flowers that have open petal arrangements, actually you might be able to find a crab spider hanging out there. Or another way to actually look for them is to actually look for like bees or moths like this one. That's like hanging out in a very weird way that shouldn't be how it's doing pollination. And chances are it also was caught by a spider as well. So if you keep your eyes open, actually these spiders are extremely common. And actually some of them, instead of flowers, they specialize in living in pitcher plants. We have a couple of these in Singapore. So the one on the bottom, on the right side is a pitcher plant spider. It hangs out in a pitcher plant and it just kind of steals from a pitcher plant with all the other flies and other stuff that drop inside. And on the left, we actually have a genus that's found in Singapore, but this particular photo was taken in Kota Batu. But it's just to show that they are useful spiders because this one's eating mosquito larvae. And I think previously I showed you a bird dung spider, and there are actually more than one species of bird dung spider from different families. So apparently this is a very common and popular strategy, which is to look like crab. And therefore eat things that are attracted to crabs, such as flies and all that. And this one here is found in botanic gardens, and the web is impressive. So you look at bird poop, right? There's always a splat, and then there's all this white crab that comes out of it, and then the yellow little gross part in the middle. So spider is the gross part in the middle. The abdomen just looks like the dung, and the head, and then even the legs are yellow to sort of like go out the color scheme, and then the web, they make it like cloudy and fluffy, like all the white gunk that goes around it. So it's very impressive. And it even smells like pee. So yeah, it's the whole package. It looks and smells like poop and pee. And this attracts the flies to come after them, and then they just eat the flies. So the bottom right, there's another variation of this bird dung camouflage. It's just the brown, hard, gritty dung. So yeah, for different types of dung, there are different types of spiders, I suppose. And it's a very popular strategy, and it's quite amusing to watch when you see your bird dung suddenly start moving. It's actually a spider. Yeah, so keep a lookout. Actually, it's quite interesting to see how if they hide quite well. And of course, some actually mimic ants. So the jumping spiders also do this, but some crab spiders as well. I'm not sure if you guys know quite scary red weaver ant, which is also a very common feature about parks and gardens. If you see all those like dumpling looking things where all the leaves are stitched up together, those are your red weaver ants. They do have a bit of a painful bite. And normally no one will ever think of going close to look at them, like me, because if I see them, I'll stand very far away. But so you have these spiders that actually pretend to look like them, and because they're hunting them. So over at the bottom here is actually the red weaver ant, and on top is the spider that pretends to look like it. On the right, you can actually see the spider is actually a lot smaller. So I'm not sure how well this disguise is, but it works. So the spider over here has gotten the red weaver ant, which is again a lot larger than the spider itself. And now we come to the last spider family, which is the Salticids. They are, okay, my bias, this is my favorite spider family. They are the most diverse group of spiders. They are highly successful. Interestingly enough, they have great eyesight. So not all spiders have good eyesight, but this one has 360-degree vision because the 8 eyes are usually spread out around the head. They actually have depth perception, telescopic vision, and they're active in the day. So most spiders are not active in the day. Most are nocturnal, except for like maybe some of the crab spiders, which hunt pollinators, which come out in the daytime. I like to describe the eye arrangement as this like 0, 0, 0, 0 eye arrangement. So like small O's and big O's in the middle. I think it makes them a bit more endearing, but this is totally personal and my bias. The males are typically more colorful than the females, and they dance. So I dance too, and so the males dance as well. Quite a lot of them do courtship displays. Again, I wish I took more videos of this, but on the bottom, this is a peacock spider. It's not found in Singapore, but the idea is the same. So a lot of the male jumping spiders, they dance by like waving their arms, flaring up their abdomen and go, look at me, look at me. And they'll actually come to a female and dance in front of their face and go like, yes, me, pick me. So yeah, so that's the jumping spider for you. And they're actually very curious. So most spiders, when they see people, or most of them treat us like rocks, but if we come towards them and then they feel the vibration and then they see like the hair movement coming towards, they'll normally go away. But a lot of the jumping spiders, actually some of them will just like come and stare at you instead. So like a lot of times when I try to use my phone to take a photo of a jumping spider, instead of jumping spider jumping away, it jumps towards my phone. Yeah, so over here we have the Hypasa, the one that you saw in one of the photos on the slides. This is a female, and you can see how calm she is. She actually jumped onto my colleague's hand. And the video is actually 1 minute long, but to spare you, I just cut it to 10 seconds. But it's just basically the spider slowly walking around her hand, exploring her hand, looking at us, checking us out. Yeah, so may not be great for arachnophobes, but they're quite cute. They're curious spiders, And these are also the family where if your father or you used to say, I stay kampong, I used to catch fighting spiders, this is the family of spiders. Okay, slide. So again, this is going to be a repeated occurrence. Most spiders try to look like a spider. For the jumping spiders as well, they are very diverse. So they have a wide range of non-spider looking spiders. On the top left, it looks like a bee. Bumblebee is also very small and cute. So I'm not very sure how effective this is as a bumblebee, but it's cute. And for some reason, it just looks like a bee. On the bottom left, we have another ant mimic spider. So interestingly, I think maybe for a lot of different types of ants in Singapore, there will be like a sort of like a partner like ant mimic spider that preys on these ants. So previously you saw the one that looked like a red weaver ant. This one looks like the giant forest ant. Yeah, if you ever see it, it's quite typical of because it has a red abdomen and a black body. So this jumping spider actually mimics that. The two in the middle are mimicking scorpions. If these spiders are not scary enough, they will still mimic an even more scarier creature, which is the scorpion and its sting. And then the one on the top right is a spider that mimics a wasp. A lot of our wasps are actually quite colorful, and a lot of our wasps are also predators. So a lot of animals are actually afraid of wasps. And so maybe the spider decided, okay, I will look even more scarier by pretending a wasp. And then on the one on the bottom right just looks like a beetle. Again, we're not so sure why you do this. Chances are they probably do this to look like their prey so they can catch them easily, or to look more scary than they actually are. And some are actually spider hunters. So jumping spiders, they are quite diverse. And I think apparently this has been cited as the more intelligent spider. I'm not very sure about that, but they do seem quite smart. So this is the Portia. I've been told it looks like the Lorax, because it has this little like fuzzy, mouth parts, and then looks like the mustache of the Lorax. They specialize in actually taking out other spiders, especially in webs. So what they do is that they go to a web of a spider, a larger spider, and then they pluck the web. And they sort of know the cues that sort of imitate the prey on the web. So they con the web spider to thinking that they're, oh, I'm a prey, I'm stuck, I'm trapped, come eat me. And then their unsuspecting prey will come out and then to check them out and then get eaten. And they are quite ruthless. They also will rip open the egg sac, eat the spiderlings up front like that. Yeah, so they look very cute, but they are quite scary. And apparently it's supposedly quite intelligent. So this is actually just a very short introduction to spider diversity. I didn't cover quite a lot of families and a lot of common species. You have web trampers versus hunters. You have ambushers versus those that actually walk around looking for their prey. You have different types of hunting. So some steal, some cast nets, some throw bola, some pretend to look like ants, some pretend to look like flower. So there's all different types of hunting strategies. There's a lot of different types of web architecture, not just their vertical orb webs. You have the Mexican upside down head. You have sheep webs. You have one line. You also have spiders that are diurnal versus nocturnal, which means they are active in the day or active in the night. Which is why when we do surveys, we have to sort of like come out at night as well, because that's when most of them are active. They also have different ecological niches. Some are actually more specific to forest types. Some actually prefer your house. So they're house jumpers or like house spiders that might die actually if you throw them outside because they're so used to the creature comforts of your home. We also have generalists versus specialists. In most spiders actually eat anything, but some actually specialize in pollinators or like especially the ones that mimic ants. They specialize in eating ants. So if you're interested, we actually do have some spider surveys coming up. I'm not so sure given the COVID status, but we did intend to plan one for the Central Catchment Nature Reserve. And this is how we catch spiders. Very primitive, but very effective, which is to shake a tree branch and then like hold a turn umbrella underneath and then catch whatever that drops down the umbrella. Yeah, so that's one way to catch spiders. Another way is just to physically grab them. And another way is to actually use an aspirator, which is something that is like a contraption where you suck up the spider and it gets trapped by a mesh and you pray very hard that your mesh is actually glued on right. If not, you suck the spider completely to your mouth. Yeah, but I would not recommend doing any of these. The best thing to do is when you see spiders is just leave them alone, maybe snap a photo or two. And yeah, don't try to catch them or they'll usually just go away, especially if you're afraid of spiders. So I'm going to go back to the Mentimeter. Now that you've learned a bit more about different spiders, hopefully you know some more about spiders. I would like to ask, what's your favorite spider now? Yeah, so... Yeah, so it's the same link. Wow, diving bell spider, okay. That one is not found in Singapore, unfortunately. It's found in, I think, in Europe. Now it's Lucas's spider. Peacock spiders. If you want to look for peacock spiders, they're found in Australia. Bird-eating. Lynx Spider. Heavy jumper. Oh wow, okay. Wow, Brazilian wandering. Okay, we do not have that in Singapore. We have the same family. Fighting spiders. Salticids. Huntsman. Net casting spider. Yay. Okay. Lynx Spider. Bird tongue spider. What's that? Oh, wasp spider. Huh. The brown recluses are not found in Singapore as well, but they're cool. Just maybe you don't get bitten by one. My Pringles. Wow, we call it. Okay, well, I'm glad to know that now the list is a lot longer and there's a lot more different spiders on there. So I hope you learned something new today, and I hope you actually learn more about spiders and different types of spiders and not just the classic tarantula, or web spider. So this is my last slide. Thanks for coming down this morning. It's quite early on a Saturday. I'm also half awake. Just kidding. Special shout out to all the spider enthusiasts for all the help that I've gotten so far in my journey in Singapore. So we done a few surveys together, like the Bukit Timah Comprehensive Survey, and we've also gone out on like our own like spider watching hunts and all that. So all of this has been quite educational for me as well, and I learned quite a lot from these guys. Yeah, so that's the end of my presentation. So over back to Leslie.
Thank you, Liew Qi. So quite amazing. Spiders, I mean, unfortunately, they have a reputation of being scary predators, but if we look beyond that and actually try to understand them, they are really very fascinating creatures. And that's probably why we got so many questions. So on to our Q&A. We'll try to answer as many of the questions as we can, but thank you to all who submitted them. So first, what is your favorite species of spider?
Well, I mean, the favorite family is the jumping spider. If I really want to talk about the species, I think that would be the Hypasa diadi, which is the photo you saw of the white fluffy female and the male jumping spider. Simply because I actually see them quite often in Singapore, and they're always very friendly and always very fun to look at, and always great photography subjects as well. Yeah, cute and fuzzy.
Okay, so jumping spiders are your favorite families, and specifically that species that you mentioned. Is that the one in your cover slide?
Yeah, it's the one in my cover slide. Yeah.
No wonder. All right. Next question is, why are there so many spider species in Singapore, and how do we compare to other countries?
So we have more than 800. I suspect probably more as time goes on, we'll find more. If I'm not wrong, I think like USA, North America is about more than 2,000 species, which is more than us. But if you think about our size compared to US size, we're actually a lot smaller. So given our small area of country, there's quite a lot of spider species in Singapore. But likely because we have forests that we keep and preserve, and we also do a lot of planting, urban greenery planting, all this. So it provides habitat for a lot of these spiders and to thrive. Generally, forest ecosystems have a lot more spider diversity than tropical forest ecosystems have a lot more spider diversity than temperate forest ecosystems as well. So which is why it's important that we keep them around. I know we've been trying quite hard to increase our park greenery, roadside greenery. Even the tree and the road can also have a lot of different spiders. So all this is quite important, and which is probably why we have quite a lot of spider species in Singapore.
Okay, so aside from being in the tropics, retaining forest habitats and even some urban ecosystems contributes to Singapore having so many spider species. All right, next question. How are spider surveys conducted?
Okay, it's quite low tech, but it's effectively low tech. So most of the times we go out in the field, we have our fixed transects or projects depending on what surveys we're doing and the purpose of the survey. And usually for the first set amount of time, we do visual survey, which is just to basically look around and try to find the spiders. And we just catch them in vials with our bare hands. Yeah, most of them are not dangerous, so it doesn't really matter. Sometimes when we sieve through leaf litter, what we do is this time we wear gloves because we're not sure what's in the leaf litter, and then it could be centipedes and all these other hazards. And then we just get a bunch of leaf litter and then we put in the sieve, and then we sieve it out. And then if spiders drop through, then we just pick them up and we catch them. The one you saw in the video is actually a very common technique, which I was very shocked to learn when I was in university, when my professor just handed me a stick and asked me to beat up a tree. And I was like, huh? So we don't beat the tree in Singapore, we shake the tree and then we hold out a sheet underneath it, and then whatever drops down we catch. Sometimes we don't get spiders that drop down, we get scorpions and snakes and frogs and a lot of other things. But usually we try to check the tree for hazards before that happens.
Okay, sounds very hands-on, but of course behind that there's a systematic method, and of course things have to be done safely as well. All right, next question is, I once saw a spider ingesting the silk of its web. What's the reason for this behavior?
Oh, recycling. So, silk is actually costly. It's not costly, but there's a cost to produce all these things. So what they do is when they're done and they need to redo their web, they actually can take back the silk and then recycle it and then spin out a new one.
Okay, so it's to kind of recycle the energy that was used to create that web.
More like recycling the material. Yeah.
Okay. So next question is, can spiders really eat birds?
Oh yeah, so I think a lot of people, I think some people know this, they think of the Goliath bird eater spider, which is not found in Singapore. I think that's a South American species. And yes, I think if a spider could catch it, they would probably eat it, but it is very rare for them to catch a bird. If I'm not wrong, even the Goliath bird eater doesn't really eat birds most of the time. He eats rats and lizards and other things. In Singapore, I think maybe the largest thing I've seen a spider catch is fish and maybe like a lizard. Although I've heard like, the orb weavers, the big Nephila, the golden orb weavers in the same family in Australia has been known to catch like even small snakes as well. Yeah.
Okay, so the answer is yes, but it's not been recorded. This phenomenon has not been recorded in Singapore, although there have been other records which are pretty impressive feats in themselves, such as eating fish and maybe in some places even snakes. All right. Is the presence of spiders any indicator of environmental health, like how the presence of dragonflies is an indicator of water quality?
This is a bit tricky. I would say not as good indicators as certain other taxa. I would say they're not an indicator at all, because obviously if you have a good forest, you have a lot of different diversity of forest spiders. But specifically to the habit, like specific, how should I say this? Okay, so for example, right, dragonflies need good water quality in order to survive. Spider needs a forest habitat to survive. Whether the forest habitat is good or not may not matter so much to the spider as it would to another species. Or like, for example, like butterflies are very specific to the flowers that they pollinate and the plants that they eat as caterpillars. So they are, the more specific you are, actually, sometimes it makes you a better indicator species. But for spiders, they are mostly generalists, except for a certain few, like I think across the world, there are some that only live in caves and all that. If they are very, they have a very specific habitat preference, that makes them a better indicator. So I'll say yes, but not really. I would look for something that has a more specific preference to be an indicator of health of the ecosystem. Yeah, spiders are very successful actually in general. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess the answer to this is that not really. You can't say 100% yes that they are an indicator of environmental health, because they are such a diverse group, and because they have more generalist tendencies. The next question is, do spiders have any symbiotic relationship with plants, or are they harmful to plants because they prey on pollinators like bees?
I think I know who asked this. I think someone recently asked me if spiders pollinate plants, and I think the answer is if they do, it's accidental, because the crab spider is probably going from flower to flower, trying to eat all the bees around there, and then so happen picks up some pollen and then like puts it on the other flower, and that's probably how it pollinates some plants, but purely through accident. I don't think in general they're harmful to plants. I think they're just part of the ecosystem where they prey on pollinators and all that. I mean, may not be great for the plant itself, but you have to understand there are a lot of plants and there are a lot of pollinators, so they are just only part of the food chain. There are a lot of things that eat pollinators as well. Yeah.
Okay, so everything has to work hand in hand, predator, prey. And actually, since the person who asked this question mentioned bees, we do have a talk on bees coming up, so stay tuned to the end for more details. And let's see if we've got any other questions for Liew Qi. Is there a guide to Singapore spiders that we can have or purchase?
Okay. I think I mentioned Joseph Cole. He's our Spider-Man, and he's working on one right now. And I'm also eagerly awaiting for this one. But in the meantime, there's also, I think a while back, there's a BP series, small little book, those little small little BP books. There's one on spiders. If you can find it, I think the Science Center used to carry that one. Yeah, but for now, no, we don't, which is hard sometimes. There's also books on spiders in Borneo, which has certain similar species and some same spiders that we have in Singapore. I think you can check that out as well. And there's also a photographic guide to spiders in Borneo by Nikki and Joseph. Yeah, so these are also very helpful references.
Okay, but for our guide to Singapore spiders, it will be coming soon. And I think we'll just wrap up with one more question, which is, what is one surprising thing about spiders that you have found during your work with NBC?
One surprising thing. Okay, maybe not surprising, but Okay, I mentioned that we used to like shake trees and all that, and then put like a sheet underneath to catch spiders, right? Maybe it's not very surprising about spiders, but one funny thing I learned in Singapore is that they use upturned umbrellas, which is different from the sheets that we use in America. And I thought that was just like it's a very simple thing, but it was like mind blowing. I was like, oh shit, no, this is like so much better. Like, the spiders get trapped a bit more because of the upturned umbrella and the edges. And yeah, that made my job a lot easier when it came to catching spiders from foliage. Not exactly surprising, okay, but yeah, I guess it was amazing.
Okay, so we are constantly realizing new and better ways to study biodiversity, and this all helps us to better understand and conserve what we have. So this is actually a nice transition to the next thing I just want to highlight. Liew Qi has pointed out that Singapore has a high diversity of spiders, especially given our size. And maintaining diversity, whether it's for spiders or other groups, needs a long-term plan. The Nature Conservation Master Plan is our systematic approach to conserving biodiversity and transforming Singapore into a city in nature. So for more information, do check out the links being shared in the chat or watch our first NParks Spotlight talk on YouTube. In it, there's a section that our group director, Lim Liang Jim, outlines the master plan. All of our previous talks can also be viewed on the NParksSG YouTube channel, so do check them out. From nocturnal mammals to intertidal creatures and birds, we have a variety of topics to suit your interests. You can also subscribe for more videos on biodiversity, gardening, green spaces, and of course, more NParks Spotlight talks. So our August sessions are now open for registration. And I mentioned earlier, we have one on bees coming up at the end. So we'll be starting with Fish in Our Streams next Saturday on 1st August. Did you know that we have fish in our forests? In fact, some of our rarest fish species can only be found in pristine freshwater streams. So do register to join us on Zoom or stream the talk live on our YouTube channel. The registration link will be sent in the chat really soon. And with that, I'd like to thank Liew Qi and our audiences in both Zoom and YouTube for being with us today. I hope you've enjoyed the session, and we'd love to hear your feedback, so please scan the QR code on my screen. To find out more about this series, visit our website or connect with us on social media. The links for all these are also being shared in the Zoom chat. So thank you all for attending today's session. Have a great weekend, take care, and stay safe.